I am Elena Valdez, and I am here to do the child tarot reading for Sagittarius, so for the Sagittarius child. And this reading is intended for the parent, guardian, caretaker. So a couple of things to mention is, number one, this reading is not gender specific. You will hear me use he, she, they pronouns loosely, but please apply to whatever resonates for you and your household. And also the age range here will vary. So some of you are here for itty bitty babies, some of you are here for toddlers, others of you are here for teenagers. It's going to vary. So it's all valid, it's all good. And also I'd like to ask you to take a moment to subscribe. Let your family members or other parents who would be into this, let them know about this channel. There aren't many other child tarot readers out there, and I think could benefit some people. Yeah, so let's get started. Okay, so the first three cards here are from the perspective of the child, and I will be ending with the fourth card, which will be the advice card for you, the parent, from Spirit. Okay, so the first position here is what your child, your Sagittarius child, will be experiencing during the month of December. Judgment. Okay, so some finalities, right? So your child is going through some final review of something where big decisions are being made. Perhaps this has to do with custody. I know that's a little bit intense coming out of the gate here, but that could be it. It could be also graduation, finalizing something, finishing something off that that he or she is not going back to. So that could be a classroom, a school, a grade level that's done, it's solidified, the grades are coming in, it's been judged, the grade level has been judged, and now you're on to the next level. So, and it's finalities here, right? You can also, I'm getting the sense of there's some closure here with family members. Perhaps this, of course, would have to do with the adults making these decisions. But it's also finality with neighbors. Perhaps your child is experiencing some of their playmates moving away. Please keep in mind that I'm reading these cards from the child's perspective, so it's going to differ a little bit from how I would be reading this for an adult, right? Because judgment for an adult would be something slightly different, right? But still within the same theme. So yes, your child is experiencing some final decisions, and the final decisions don't necessarily have to be endings. It could just be a final judgment. You have officially decided that your Sagittarius will take the bedroom, or will no longer share his or her bedroom, or from now on your child will not have the laptop, or a final decision has made. Your child himself could be put in a situation where they need to make a decision. Again, I'm going to go back to the custody example that I started off with. Your child could be the one naming his or her decision of where they want to go for the winter, for holidays, where they want to go for next summer, where they want to live for a little while, or what parent they choose to live with, that kind of thing. Like maybe they want to be with their grandparents. There's a final decision. I have to say it's a bit of a grown-up responsibility type of decision here, if it's coming from your child. If it's a judgment made from the parent, it could be as simple as what we said earlier, choosing a bedroom or the paint that's going to go on their new bedroom wall, that kind of thing, right? The seriousness here can range depending on your child, right? And the age that we're talking about here. But whatever this is, whatever decision this is, whether it's something your child is being put to decide or you, it's final. Okay, so your child's going to have to be very clear. You, as the adult, would not need to be very clear about this decision because there's possibly no going back. So here, in terms of a conflict, so your child got the Six of Wands. Oh, Sagittarius, this makes me sad for a Saggy, because the Six of Wands is about accolades and victories and feeling proud of something that has been accomplished. And so when it's in the challenge position, it could be that your little Sagittarius is having a hard time um, applauding himself here or herself. Like there could be issues with, acknowledging how far they've gotten. If you have one of the little guys who just graduated here, they might not really either they're losing out on a graduation or a celebration, or actually what I just picked up too, and it makes sense because we are in Sagittarius season, is some of them are not going to have little birthday parties, right? Because Six of Wands is also about celebrating birthdays and celebrating something, a milestone. So the challenge here of being celebrated for their birthday, some of them could feel really down about that. It could be a little bit like a bummer, right? Like, oh my gosh, like I'm not being celebrated this year. So there's a need here to have to explain. And I know a lot of you are doing such a great job already and have probably already explained why it can't happen this year, right? But there is a need here to understand because it is causing quite a conflict. Okay, so if it's not a birthday deal or a party issue, it could just be struggling with some self-worth and self-validation. Okay, so this final judgment here, final decision, and actually that could be the final decision that was made. No birthday party this year. Or, you can't have your friends over this year. Maybe one friend. Pick. You can only pick one friend out of your three best friends who can come visit you on your birthday, right? And meanwhile, they want everyone to come to the party. Again, I'm just giving examples here. You will know how it applies for you. But yeah, so that's the challenge. Your little Saggy wants to go have fun and feel good about himself, but is having a little bit of a struggle there. Now, for me, this position, the third position, is the most important position because it tells you what your child needs most from you, the parent. So I think this is the most important position. The Five of Wands. Yeah, so there's a tug of war going on here, in terms of, the Five of Wands is very similar to the Five of Swords. That it can be a little bit of tug of war, a little bit of not defiance, but yeah, a little bit of defiance and stubbornness, right? So, if it's coming up in terms of what your child needs most from you, I think what your child needs from you here, and I'm picking up, this is probably going to be for a little older children. It doesn't have to be, but it can, is maybe your child just needs you to be in their little grumpiness or complaint about why this isn't happening. Like maybe he just needs to air that out. Being given the space to do that, to, call out his uncomfortability about a situation and not being blocked to do that. Like being allowed to just express. And that can mean throwing a tantrum. It can mean crying about it. It can mean literally slamming the door because they can't get their way. Or it could just be another form of expressing. It could be very positive. It could be creative too. Because the wands, after all, is movement of physicality and creativity, right? So you have two wands here. One is a higher octave, Six of Wands, and one is a Five of Wands. So you can't get to the Six of Wands until you've gone through the Five of Wands, right? So this whole feeling, the accolades and self-worth and self-victory and applauding oneself, sometimes we can't get there until we vent our stuff, until we get out of our own way, right? And it could be little disputes with friends too. And I think what he's asking here, what your child needs from you, is just allow space for that, not to block the venting. And Sagittarians are like that, right? Just in general, Sagittarius, fiery, especially the very high, like highly, Sag, depending on their chart, what they have going on in the natal chart, right? But if you've noticed, well, if you are a parent of a Sagittarius, you have already noticed, they do tend to just really forcefully express when they're not happy with something. And so, but also have noticed once they express it, it's over. They're over it, right? They're done. They just need to get it out and move on. So yes, so give them space to do that. That's what they need from you in December. Just allow them to complain and, of course, in moderation, right? I mean, if they're throwing things at people, obviously you're not going to let them do that. But within moderation, I think that that's going to be very healthy for your child to just be able to express, whether it's a tantrum or crying or even screaming, as long as, again, as long as it's not hurting anyone, right? As long as it's in a healthy um, way that you can handle. Anyhow, I'll leave it there with the perspective. And let's move on to the advice card from Spirit for you, the parent. And sometimes this advice card is literally just going to be for you, for whatever you need to hear. And other times it's going to be in relationship to what your child is going through. And this is interesting because you got the 8 of Cups. And again, it could go back to this judgment. So some of you could very much be walking away from a home that you once lived in. Like, you've made a final decision. So this is part of the judgment here. Could be walking away from a relationship or the child's parent. It doesn't necessarily need to be your child's parent. It could be a step parent. But definitely this is Spirit confirming that, yes, you are on the right path. And whatever it is that you're walking away from just wasn't serving you anymore, right? And you're doing it in a very peaceful manner. You're sure of it. You're not looking back. And see how she's walking towards that light there? She's not looking back. She's very, she has conviction about this decision. So that ties in with judgment. So there is a decision you made about walking away from something that wasn't serving you or your child. And that could go anywhere from walking away from a school district that was no longer serving you or your child, walking away from a neighborhood, a home, a spouse, a relationship, a family member, whatever that is for you. It's going to vary. This is confirmation that you're doing it, it's happening, and it is to some extent affecting your child, right? And so while you're walking away, because this means also that you're probably going through your own grief at the moment and your own pain about this situation, whatever that is for you, whatever it meant to you. While this is happening, Spirit wants to remind you that you can still find ways to give your child the accolades that he or she needs, right? Because it's hard when we're in grief, when we're missing something or someone, and we're in the middle of a heartbreak. So this is just a reminder that while you're doing this walking away, to hold space, to have this time with your little one, to remind him or her that she's amazing and valuable and loved, and that this final decision doesn't equal or it has nothing to do with her value or identity in the world, that it can be separate, right? Yeah, so there's a sense here of you feeling a little, and maybe also your child is experiencing you a little bit distant here. So this is pretty heavy. I'm sorry for any of you going through any such pain currently, because it is a lonely card. So I feel you, parent, even though you're walking away gracefully from whatever it is and it is the right decision, it's also a lonely road, right? Because you're alone in it. So just my heart goes out to you, whatever this is. And anyhow, I'm going to leave it here, but I hope this was helpful some way. And I hope to see you back here in 2021 for the January reading. And yeah, okay, thank you. Have a good one. Bye.